Courage is being scared to death and saddling up anyway. An onion can make people cry, but there's never been a vegetable that can make people laugh. The bigger a man's gun, the smaller his doodle wick. Never kick a cow chip on a hot day. You can't tell how good a man or a watermelon is till they get thumped. There are 3 kinds of men: the one that learns by reading, the few who learn by observation. The rest of them have to pee on the electric fence for themselves. Letting the cat out of the bag is a whole lot easier than putting it back in. If you get to thinking you're a person of some influence, try ordering somebody else's dog around. Always drink upstream from the herd. The Old West is not a certain place in a certain time. It's a state of mind. It's whatever you want it to be. Good judgment comes from experience, and a lot of that comes from bad judgment. It's a lot like nuts and bolts. If the rider's nuts, the horse bolts. I was feeling real good and real manly until a real cowboy walked by and told me I had my hat on backwards. So much for my career as a cowboy. Do right and risk the consequences. It is easier to get an actor to be a cowboy than to get a cowboy to be an actor. It don't take a genius to spot a goat in a flock of sheep. Don't interfere with something that ain't bothering you none. Never slap a man who's chewing tobacco. Don't squat with your spurs on. The most beautiful, the most spirited, and the most inspiring creature ever to print foot on the grasses of America. If lawyers are disbarred and clergymen are defrocked, shouldn't it follow that cowboys would be deranged? When you find yourself in a hole, the first thing to do is stop digging. No hour of life is wasted that is spent in the saddle. I'm a cowboy who never saw a cow. I get to actually experience what it would be like to be a psycho, which is not a fun one, or to be a cowboy, or to be a weird character of some sort. For me, it suits me. It suits my personality. I'm an emotional kind of person anyway. We have a sense that we should be like the mythical cowboy, able to take on and conquer anything and live in the world without the need for other people. I don't care about going down in history as a great bull rider or bronc rider. I hope people will remember me as a great cowboy. A lot of old guys in movies are like cowboys. They talk like cowboys and they dress like cowboys. Never slap a man who is chewing tobacco. Timing has a lot to do with the outcome of a rain dance. I'm not a great science fiction fan myself. I probably feel that way about Westerns. Like I used to play Cowboys and Indians, they can act out Will and the robot. The 2 basic items necessary to sustain life are sunshine and coconut milk. Despite what people think of cowboys, they take pride in how they look, and that look is important to them. I wore a lot of vintage clothing. I dressed like a reporter, with a little card in my hat. I had these fantasies of who I wanted to be, so I'd dress like an explorer, a cowboy. I dressed up like Elton John a lot too. That was another period. You'd look out and there'd be little babies watching the show, and boys and girls. They loved the Cowboys, and they loved Annie. There were young people seeing the show for the first time. I stayed for 2 years because I enjoyed it so much. You might say that Lyndon Johnson is a cross between a Baptist preacher and a cowboy. When I was starting to get noticed as an actor in the 1970s, for something other than the third cowboy on the right, who ended up dying in every movie or episode, Burt Reynolds was the biggest star in the world. I must say, as to what I have seen of Texas, it is the garden spot of the world. The best land and the best prospects for health I ever saw, and I do believe it is a fortune to any man to come here. There is a world of country here to settle. A boxing match is like a cowboy movie. There's got to be good guys and there's got to be bad guys. And that's what people pay for, to see the bad guys get beat. Neiman Marcus is one thing, and the Dallas Cowboys are another. Always take a good look at what you're about to eat. It's not so important to know what it is, but it's critical to know what it was. France can never accept that it is no longer a dominating power in the world of culture. This is true both of the French right and the French left. They keep thinking that Americans are primitive cowboys or farmers who do not understand anything. A lovely horse is always an experience. It is an emotional experience of the kind that is spoiled by words. Now look, that damned cowboy is president of the United States. In a lot of places in the United States, and certainly even more places around the world, the image of the cowboy has become, for some people, a negative one. The word cowboy implies a strong, stubborn individual whose individualism depends on pulling down other people's individualism. I always wanted to be a cowboy, and Jedi Knights are basically cowboys in space, right? There's nothing in life that's worth doing if it can't be done from a horse. The first movie I appeared in was Carry On Cowboy, though not as an actor. I was just riding horses. Nobody ever drowned in his own sweat. Townes Van Zandt is the best songwriter in the whole world, and I'll stand on Bob Dylan's coffee table in my cowboy boots and say that. I remember once when I told Lindsay Anderson at a party that acting was just a sophisticated way of playing cowboys and Indians, he almost had a fit. Living in Dallas, I root for the Mavericks and the Stars and the Cowboys, but I've always pulled for the Chicago Cubs. I enjoy watching them play. If the Cowboys and Titans ain't playing, I'm not interested. I had done my first picture, and I didn't have anything to do for a while. I was asked to come back to New York and do Bus Stop in the role of the cowboy opposite Kim Stanley. I grew up in Dallas with cowboys. I was the only guy in 6th grade with long hair and an earring. Let's just say I got a lot of, flack for being different. When I was a kid, my stepdad started this business and would go out and get lost cows and stuff. He was part-time truck driver, farmer, and cowboy. He taught me how to ride from an early age. Don't dig for water under the outhouse. I never miss a good chance to shut up. I think you're going to find out that Westerns will be coming back. It's Americana. It's part of our history. The cowboy, the cattle drive, the sheriff, the fight for law, order, and justice. Justice will always prevail as far as I'm concerned. Grandpa Patterson used to say, "Never approach a bull from the front, a horse from the rear, or a fool from any direction.